And welcome to another Mark Bishop show. You know, I have a question for you. It is 2022, correct? So why is the U.S. Navy still giving sheep the bends? Would you like to help PETA stop go nowhere, cruel and wasteful decompression experiments on animals? Well, Shriya Swaminathan is PETA's science policy advisor. So, what's going on, Shriya?
Well, first off, thank you so much for having me. It's a pleasure to be here. And I'm very much looking forward to chatting more about this issue, which is really important and often overlooked, and several members of the public might not be aware that that this is happening. Mm-hmm. And so here, the United States Navy is willfully torturing sheep and other animals by forcing them to endure the painful experience of what is called decompression sickness, also called the bends. And the bends usually happens when bubbles of nitrogen gas form in the blood, the muscles, and other organs, including the brain. And this can cause excruciating pain and even death. And the fact of the matter here is that the treatment for bends has not changed for over 80 years. And the Navy is still needlessly causing animals to suffer and die in horrific pain, while naval members who are susceptible to the bends are missing out on effective treatments for this painful and sometimes lethal condition.
Yeah, sheep are highly sensitive animals, aren't they? And they frighten easily too, don't they, Shriya?
Yes, they're sensitive and they are intelligent. They are capable of experiencing very similar emotions to us. Their lives carry their own inherent worth, and it's not only sheep. Other animals are also used in these experiments. Mice and rats are being tortured in unimaginable ways, and in methods and experiments that are not yielding any relevant information that is actually going to help humans who are susceptible to the bends.
Well, I'm surprised because even with all of this and the horrific decompression sicknesses and illnesses that do happen, the agency had previously yanked its funding for such tests in 2010 at the University of Wisconsin in Madison. So, what's going on? I mean, how can they continue to do this?
Right. You are correct that back in 2010, as a result of efforts from PETA and Alliance for Animals, we were able to successfully urge the Navy to pull funding from these decompression sickness experiments on animals. But we recently did uncover that these experiments have resumed and are ongoing. So we are really leading the charge here to urge the Navy to put an end to these archaic experiments once and for all, and to keep up with international standards and the technological advancements of our time. In fact, our allied navies that are incredibly successful, such as France and Britain, have already scrapped their animal testing program for decompression sickness. And they are doing so in favor of these advanced animal-free methods that rely on human-based data, such as experiments in human-derived cells, data from human clinical trials, and existing human diver data, which are far superior approaches to study decompression sickness, to predict symptoms, and to assess risk to better help our naval officers. So there really is no reason to torture and kill these animals in worthless experiments that, again, many folks don't know is using our taxpayer money to fund these experiments. So our taxpayer dollars are being used to torture animals and produce data that does not effectively translate to humans. Our money is being wasted for these procedures.
Doesn't matter anyway. That's right. But we do need to have research done to look after our boys. There's no doubt about that. But when you think of bubbles of nitrogen gas forming in the blood and muscles and organs, it causes excruciating pain and even death to these poor animals. Sheep, subjected to crippling joint pains, bloating, stomach puncture, cardiovascular collapse, spinal cord injury. distress and paralysis and eventually death. I mean, I wouldn't like to go through it, I'll tell you now. But, you try so hard. Funding, the cut came as a result of criminal investigation launched in a response to complaints by PETA and Alliance for Animals. And as you say, the French Navy and the UK Ministry, they're among international naval agencies that have stopped it. So they must have found other ways too. They must be working other things that are working to still give us what we need to help our Navy.
Absolutely. That is very true. And in fact, the Naval Medical Research Center has also publicly admitted that their experiments on animals do not accurately translate to humans. There are advanced animal-free technologies, like studies in human cells. There are human clinical trials, like I'd mentioned earlier, analysis of human diver data. So there are these human-based, far superior methods that would obviously provide more human-relevant information than using and torturing and killing animals would. And so there is no justifiable reason here for the Navy to continue to torture and kill animals and wasting our taxpayer dollars in doing so. And it's not only PETA and animal rights groups that are making this ask. In fact, the former commander of the Naval Medical Research Center, Rear Admiral Marion Balsam, joined PETA, has joined arms with PETA in calling on the Secretary of the Navy, the current Secretary Carlos Del Toro, to end these worthless, wasteful experiments on animals that are also depriving naval members of life-saving treatments for this painful condition.
Well, I wonder if, it sort of sounds like it's falling on deaf ears. I mean, folks listening, all PETA's asking you is to help support them here. I mean, they're asking you to, demand that the Navy get in line with international standards and solid science. There's no need for it. And to switch to superior, human-relevant, non-animal research methods. That's really about it in a nutshell, isn't it?
Yes, it's as simple as that. And these methods do very much exist. And we have also escalated this issue to Secretary of Defense Lloyd Austin, urging him to intervene and end these archaic tests immediately. Last week, PETA protesters made their voices loud and clear on behalf of these animals who are being exploited and killed in these decompression sickness experiments at the 2022 Defense Conference, where the Navy Secretary Del Toro was speaking. Earlier today, there was a Navy event where Secretary Del Toro was going to be present. And of course, we have PETA made their presence very obvious there as well. So we are not going to stop. We are going to keep the pressure on until the Navy agrees to scrap their animal testing program for decompression sickness once and for all, to align themselves with international standards, to keep up with the technological advancements of our time, to embrace these animal-free technologies, and also use this as an opportunity to set a positive precedent to other Navy organizations across the world.
Well, your timing, it's critical at the moment. Look what's going on in the country with all of the politics and voting and, the bottom line is this: taxpayers' money in recession times coming and everything else is so expensive. I'm sure that taxpayers' money could go elsewhere and do really well. And particularly if there is truly other ways of doing this that supports our Navy and supports our defense, I'm all for it. Why should you keep doing something and spending, it's like the old cliche, why keep doing something one after another when it's going to give you the same result? No, it doesn't matter, does it? Well, look, folks, you can go to www.peta.org/Navy. That is the correct site, is it not?
Yes, that is correct. And yeah, I'm very glad you brought that up, because PETA has made it incredibly easy for the public to take action. So just a few simple steps, a click of a button, and you can directly contact these top military brass, calling on them to shut down these horrific tests that waste animals' lives and taxpayer dollars and does not provide an effective treatment for those Navy officials and other people who are going to be susceptible to the bends. So again, that's PETA.org/Navy, and you can do your part to make your voices heard and help us save these animals.
Shriya Swaminathan, ladies and gentlemen, PETA's Science Policy Advisor. Thank you so much for popping in today. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me. This is a true pleasure chatting with you.
Right. Goodbye now.